I'd like to go to Enase. You have heard from our keynote speaker, and Victor has, buttressed that point, that the purpose of education is not significantly to make a living, but to teach people how to live. So how do we link education to the kind of values that we want our children to have, to the kind of competitiveness, the kind of skills that are requisite for the 21st century? Where are we missing the bus, if you will?
Thank you very much. In my opinion, I think that we're missing it because of... In my opinion, I think that we're missing it perhaps by an undue focus on knowledge. When I think about education, I like to think of education across 3 levels. One is the knowledge which we impart to the students. The second are the skills which we hope we will inculcate in them. And then the third are the values. Now, all the talk that we have, and the focus have been on how do we impart this knowledge. And then what are the ways by which we impart this knowledge? I believe that to a large extent, in this country, it is by memorization, learning by rote. Yesterday, we had somebody share some information with us about the obsolescence of information, of knowledge. Nowadays, we must accept that human knowledge is expanding exponentially, both in depth and in complexity, which means that the knowledge that we give to the students today is going to be outdated, if we believe yesterday's presentation, in about 3 months' time. Therefore, should we be focusing on the knowledge or should we be focusing on other things? I do believe that the focus has to be on creating in the students and the citizens of this nation a desire for lifelong learning. By use of technology, we do have access to knowledge. People are creating new knowledge every day. So technology has this purpose in terms of defining and making known to us the knowledge. What are the things that we're doing in terms of the skills as well as the values, which is the most important to us as a nation and as we go forward in nation building? Therefore, we have to look at whether in the curriculum across both the early, primary, secondary, and tertiary, we do have things that emphasize character building and then corporate citizenship. We must also look at the ways by which we teach and think whether the methods that we use for teaching will promote in the citizens the skills that are necessary, such as creativity, adaptability, problem solving, or we're just giving them the knowledge. In the words of somebody who I listened to on a TED conversation, he says that our objective should be to teach students to evolve from parrots into persons. And I think that we have to define the learning outcomes. What do we want our citizens to be? And that should drive what we put into it.
Thank you very much. My next question goes to Wale. There is a drive for national competitiveness. We understand that we have a transformation agenda which is being promoted by the present administration. Now, how do we link the transformation agenda or the drive for national competitiveness to educating our children? What are those elements of education that we need to actually teach our children? If you have been reading some of the information put out by the Ministry of Education in recent time, that they have just launched 33 new subjects. Amongst them would include entrepreneurship, and some other vocational skills, which are going to be taught in universities. So have they gone far enough, or have they gone too far? What are your opinions?
Thank you very much, Nicholas. I think for most corporates, investing in education is from two perspectives. One is from a corporate social responsibility perspective, and also from a needs-based perspective. I dare say that corporates are allowed to be selfish, because if we do not get the sort of educated people we need to run our businesses, then we don't have a business at all. One big problem that we have today is that there's a big misalignment between what is being taught in our schools and what we require to run our businesses. You'll find that the dynamics of technology today, and in most spheres of business today, what you learned 15, 20 years ago in university, in fact 5 years ago, is completely irrelevant today. You will find also that as a driver for corporates, it's important to have your home market well educated. I'll share some statistics with you. When we started business in 2001, 2002, we had in excess of 300 expatriates. Today, we have about 18 expatriates. It has taken a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of investment to educate, train, and bring Nigerians to the level that we need in this industry. But the reality also is that the industry has moved significantly from where it was in 2002, 2003 in terms of technology to where it is at today. We find also that there's stronger need for alignment between what the government is trying to achieve in education, what our universities are trying to achieve, and our needs. We need for our universities to talk to us. We need for our universities to understand and forecast, like you would in any business, where the skills will be required. If you look at, you mentioned the transformation agenda. Clearly, you can see that in the transformation agenda, there's a lot about health, there's a lot about ICT, and these are the areas that our universities should be looking at. You should be able to take a decision. Do we really need doctors today, or do we need medical technicians? Do we need people in the laboratories? You know, there's so much. Do we need people who can understand trends, patterns, people who can look at data and interpret that data? Those are the skills that are required in the world that we know today. And we must ensure that that correlation is established. And for you to establish that correlation, there's a lot of work that is required on the side of educational institutions. We find that even where corporates have resources to invest in education, to find destinations that will sort of give you the results that you want is very, very difficult. So today you have corporates who have a lot of resources that they have budgeted to put in education, but they're unable to find the appropriate destination because experience has shown that we tend to put a lot more money into ensuring that you increase the number of people that data will capture as going to school, but there's absolutely zero or no data in terms of those who are getting educated, and perhaps even less so people who are educated to the level where, to borrow the words of the keynote speaker, they're globally competitive.
Excellent. Chidi, it is obvious from what Wale is saying that there is a disconnect between industry and education. What do you believe are we missing? What kind of partnerships can we drive in terms of being able to articulate an initiative that would allow industry to provide education with the kind of skills that they require? And what kind of partnerships have you seen around the world that we can borrow from or we can learn from that would give us a solution for our present predicament?
Thank you very much. I think I'll first of all try to flip that conversation. If you listen to our conversation around our education, it's very negative. It's an energy side. There's something called appreciative inquiry, and that's what I'm seeing traveling around the world. Is there something good about our education today? Is there something I didn't want to check? Is there really anything that we can accentuate or use that? And having access to conversation, I think that's where we learn this. We look at what are the issues. And the moment you want to drop the issues on the table, you have the power. And that kills energy, kills creativity, kills enthusiasm. And some of the commentary here is all about mass, fast rate, and infrastructure. What do we need in the workplace today and tomorrow? We need people who are creative, people who bring solutions to problems, people who step out to do stuff. And I'm not sure it has too much to do with maths and English. As I travel around the world, I see every country is complaining about the education system. I returned yesterday morning in the UK. You're bringing in Chinese to take them through maths. Is that the right solution? I do not know. So, but let me talk about what we have done as an organization. I used to work for GSK until 3 days ago. So I've been moving to work for another organization. So I think we partnered with universities to train dentists in Nigeria, and I found a few things. I realized that our universities are not thinking about diseases of the future. They are focusing on what was a disease 25 years ago. That was really striking. So what we do, we bring in dentists or dental practitioners or teachers from overseas to come into. We did that with the LUD, we did that with the UNTH as well. We also have gotten some of our professors involved in research, where they go to research and counterfeiting. We are fond of hearing data about counterfeiting in Nigeria. 97% of the products are counterfeited. And I stepped out and said, let me even confirm that. So we called the professor, can you do this research? And she used it to train her students. First thing we need to understand, there are ways to engage with industry. And the platforms are there. And I will advise them, like I said, I think that the reason that leads to the wrong behavior is that we are looking at the issues and the problems, and we make government focus on hiring more math teachers and infrastructure. And I give you two instances. NAFDAC has fantastic labs across Nigeria, don't they? Standards Organization do have. Every time I go to UI or University of Nigeria, they tell me they don't have money to open laboratories. And I say to them, why don't you use the NAFDAC laboratory? And if you do that, government saves a lot of money, number one. Number two, the students are going to practice with live examples of what's happening in industry. Those are some collaboration we can have. The other one, what are the industries of tomorrow? Are we thinking about that? How many engineers? Do we really need engineers tomorrow? We need technicians. The moment we start to have such conversation, things start to change. But you can only have that if we move the conversation from analyzing the issues we have yesterday and today to talking about the opportunities of the future. And that's the advice I always give when I engage with government or other parts of or educational institutions.
Thank you very much. Your Honorable Special Advisor to the Governor of Lagos State, I happen to have a personal experience of Lagos State. I do a lot of volunteering for teaching young folks, and I know that there is a crisis in the state-owned schools in Lagos State in terms of the quality of teachers. What is it that you can share with us that the Lagos State government is doing to redress that problem? And are there any other initiatives that you are looking at or that the government is looking at that could take on the public school system in Lagos State, either through creative funding initiatives or creative programs to bring in more qualified teachers?
First of all, I would just like to say that the picture of Oshodi that we saw earlier on is no longer that. In fact, when you get to Oshodi now, you wouldn't believe. That was the old Oshodi.